Why you can't say no, and it's not your fault. Let's get one thing straight. You're not broken because you say yes when you mean no. You're not weak. You're not indecisive. You're just conditioned. Conditioned by a lifetime of invisible rules that told you, nice people don't disappoint. So today we're unpacking one of the oldest survival programs in your brain, the primal fear of rejection, and how it still controls your daily life. Let's dive in. 1. The early training program. You weren't born afraid to speak your mind. That fear was handed to you in pieces, one disapproving look at a time. One raised voice. One silent treatment. When you were little, you didn't understand the rules, only the consequences. You tried to assert yourself. Maybe you didn't want to share your toy. Maybe you refused to hug someone. Maybe you just said no. And what happened? A scolding. A guilt trip. A withdrawal of affection. Your nervous system flinched, recorded the event, and filed it under, "This is dangerous." Over time, your brain began to learn a pattern. Not through logic, but through repetition. Every time you chose yourself and got hurt, your brain carved a deeper groove. "Don't do that again," it whispered. "Stay small. Stay agreeable. Stay safe." And so you did. You learned to smile, even when it felt fake. You said it's okay when it wasn't. You gave up your spot, your voice, your time, not because you wanted to, but because it seemed easier. And in a way it was. Because what child wants to risk love? What child wants to face the emotional coldness of being seen as difficult? So you began to mold yourself into what others expected. Not because you liked it, but because you needed connection more than authenticity. You became hyper-aware of others' emotions, tuned into every shift in tone, every micro-expression. Your brain became a radar tower for potential rejection, scanning constantly for signs of danger, a sigh, an eye roll, a pause too long. It wasn't people-pleasing. It was self-defense. You weren't trying to be liked, you were trying to survive. And the most effective survival strategy: compliance, camouflage, disappearance. You stopped asking for what you needed. You stopped disagreeing. You stopped having needs at all, at least out loud. Because somewhere deep down, your body remembered standing up for yourself used to hurt. And pain is to be avoided, even if that means sacrificing your truth. Even if it means disappearing behind a curtain of yeses you never meant. Even if it means applauding your own silencing just to keep the peace. But that training, that script you were handed, it wasn't written by someone who knew what was best for you. It was passed down by people who were trained the same way, through fear, through guilt, through punishment. They weren't teaching you to be kind. They were teaching you to be quiet. And now you carry that lesson in your bones, in your breath, in the tremble in your voice when you try to say the simplest thing. Number 2, the invisible contract. No one hands it to you. No one asks you to sign it. But somehow, somewhere along the way, you start living by it. The silent agreement. The invisible contract that says, I will make myself smaller so you feel comfortable. I will silence my needs so you won't leave. I will smile through discomfort just to avoid being seen as difficult. You didn't write this contract, but you follow it like scripture. Because every time you do something predictable happens, people stay. They praise your kindness, your flexibility, your big heart. But none of them see the cost. They don't feel the tension behind your yes, the tightness in your chest, the way you overthink every response before hitting send. And the contract grows thicker, more binding. Now it's not just about avoiding conflict, it's about avoiding identity, your identity. Because every time you abandon your truth for someone else's comfort, you drift further from yourself. But you keep doing it. Why? Because this contract, it buys you something. Approval, belonging, a fragile sense of peace. Not real peace, performative peace. The kind that only lasts as long as you're agreeable. The worst part, most people don't even notice what they're demanding from you. They're just used to you being easy. You've trained them unknowingly to expect your yes. And when you finally say no, they flinch. They resist. They guilt. Because they never read the fine print that every yes came at a price. A price you were paying in silence, in anxiety, in a growing resentment that you never voiced. You tell yourself it's easier this way, that it keeps the waters calm, that it keeps things smooth. but smooth for whom you absorb the chaos so others don't have to feel a ripple. You become the shock absorber for everyone's discomfort, the emotional sponge, and deep down a voice starts to whisper, "This isn't love. This is performance." But you silence that voice. You shove it down with another automatic yes, because the contract is still in place, and the fear of tearing it up feels like too much. You've confused agreement with connection, harmony with safety. But harmony built on self-erasure isn't peace. It's a slow fade, a kind of inner dying. And the longer you keep the contract unspoken, the more it rewrites who you are until you look in the mirror and realize you've become a collection of other people's expectations, not a reflection of your own truth. 3. The ancient rejection alarm. Your fear of rejection isn't irrational, it's ancient, long before smartphones and social etiquette. Your survival depended on one thing: belonging. You didn't just want to be part of the tribe, you had to be. Alone meant vulnerable. Vulnerable meant dead. So your brain evolved a hypersensitive alarm system for anything that even resembled exclusion. A cold look, a sigh of disappointment, a pause after you spoke. These didn't just feel uncomfortable, they triggered the same survival pathways as a predator attack. Today, rejection doesn't mean getting left to freeze in the woods. But your nervous system doesn't know that. It still reacts like you've just been kicked out of the cave. A simple disagreement feels like a threat. Saying no feels like dangling over a cliff. That's not weakness. That's evolutionary residue. Your body is doing what it was programmed to do: sound the alarm when your connection to the group feels at risk. This is why you over-explain yourself, why you panic after sending a text, why you rehearse conversations in your head that haven't even happened. Your brain is scanning for danger, not physical, but emotional. It's trying to protect you from being cast out, left behind, made other. And every time someone pulls away even slightly, your ancient system screams, "We're not safe." And here's the twist. The more sensitive you are to emotional cues, the more intensely you feel this alarm. It's not just social anxiety. It's survival-level hypervigilance. And the brain doesn't care if the rejection is real or imagined, it responds the same. Your heart races, your stomach drops, your thoughts spiral. You tell yourself it's stupid, dramatic, irrational. But that doesn't stop it. Because logic lives in the cortex, fear lives deeper, older, primal. And the cruel irony. In trying to avoid rejection, you reject yourself first. You edit your words, your tone, your opinions. You become who you think they want, not who you are. Because if you can just preempt the rejection, maybe you won't feel the sting. But you do. Quietly. Repeatedly. Every time you betray yourself for the illusion of belonging. What no one told you is this: the part of your brain that fears rejection isn't evil, it's outdated. It's a smoke alarm that goes off every time you toast bread. It's loud, it's jarring, and it's wrong, but it's just trying to keep you alive. The trick isn't to destroy the alarm. It's to recognize when it's lying to you, and to choose authenticity anyway, even when it shakes your hands, even when your voice trembles, because belonging built on pretending is still a form of exile. 4. Why you freeze instead of speak. You had something to say. You felt it rising in your chest, the truth, the boundary, the no. But then, silence. Your throat closed. Your breath hitched. Your heart pounded. And the moment passed. You nodded instead. Smiled. Agreed. Again. This isn't weakness. This isn't shyness. This is your nervous system hijacking your voice. It's called the fawn response, the lesser-known cousin of fight, flight, and freeze. It's what happens when your body decides the safest way out is to appease, to be agreeable, to disappear into compliance. Because somewhere in your past, your brain learned this equation. Disagreement is danger. Resistance is rejection. Silence is survival. So now, in moments where you feel emotionally cornered, a confrontation, a demand, a subtle guilt trip, your body doesn't gear up to defend you. It shuts down to protect you. You freeze. You forget your words. Your tongue turns to stone. And after you replay the moment 100 times thinking of what you should have said. But you didn't fail. Your biology took over. The worst part. No one sees the war inside you. To them you look calm. Maybe even agreeable. But inside your system is screaming. Your silence isn't consent. It's collapse. A collapse of self in service of peace. A protective reflex dressed as politeness. And it becomes a cycle. The more you freeze, the more frustrated you get with yourself. You call it cowardice. You tell yourself you're broken. But you're not broken. You're conditioned. Your nervous system isn't dysfunctional, it's overfunctioning. Overprotective. Like a guard dog that barks at every shadow. Over time, this pattern rewires your relationship to your own needs. You stop trusting your voice. You begin to doubt your instincts. You start believing that speaking up always leads to conflict, to chaos, to being left behind. So you stay silent, and you shrink. And the space you occupy in the world becomes smaller than the truth of who you are. But the truth is still there, still burning in your chest, still waiting to be spoken. And the only way to unfreeze is to make safety louder than fear. To remind your body gently and often that you're not in danger anymore. That saying no won't kill you. That your voice isn't a weapon, it's a doorway. And the longer you go without walking through it, the more your soul forgets how to speak at all. 5. Relearning the word no. It's one of the shortest words in the English language. But for some reason it feels like lifting a mountain. Just 2 letters, yet your throat tightens. Your chest locks up. Your brain floods with imaginary consequences. What if they get mad? What if they walk away? What if this no ruins everything? That fear isn't overreaction. It's old code, written in the body of a younger version of you. The version who learned that speaking up led to punishment, shame, or abandonment. And now even in harmless moments, a favor, a request, a question, your nervous system replays that old script. If you say no, something bad will happen. So you don't say it. You delay, deflect, apologize, explain too much, or say yes through gritted teeth. But every time you say yes when you mean no, your trust in yourself erodes a little more. You start to doubt your gut. You question your own discomfort. You look outward for approval instead of inward for truth. And slowly saying no doesn't just feel hard, it feels foreign, like a language you forgot how to speak. Relearning it isn't about becoming harsh or cold. It's about remembering that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's a way of choosing your energy, your time, your peace. But when you've been trained to believe your worth is tied to your usefulness, no feels selfish. So you'll need to unlearn that belief over and over. Start small. Say no to the extra task when you're already exhausted. Say no to the event you dread attending. Say no without explaining yourself just once and feel the discomfort pass. Because it will pass. The first time you say it, it might shake. The second time it might tremble. But the third time something clicks. Your body remembers that you survived it. No one left. Nothing shattered. And even if someone does pull away, that tells you something important. They weren't choosing you. They were choosing your compliance. You don't need to burn bridges. But you also don't need to keep building them out of your own spine. No is a full sentence. And sometimes, it's the most honest one you'll ever speak. Not out of anger. Not out of rebellion. But out of love for the person you're finally learning to protect yourself. You weren't born afraid to say no. That fear was installed like malware. But now you know. And that awareness. That's the first step to rewriting the code. Subscribe if you want more uncomfortable truths with stick figure therapy. Your brain may hate it, but your soul will thank you.